Did I unmute Kim? Oh gosh, hold on.
I did it myself.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Kim.
We're off and running. Boy, it was easier to do these every week than it is once a month, for sure. Anyway, welcome everybody. And it is a kind of cold, gray day today compared to how it was last week when I took some of these photos. So you're going to see a difference in what the island looked like. This is a short walk. It's a loop walk, and it includes a lot of different areas: Charlestown Beach, Cormorant Cove, and the channel by the Coast Guard station. So it's each of those areas has sort of what I would call the back dune area, which is really interesting, but it's three distinct different ecosystem types. So let's see, I gotta get rid of something on my, there we go. Okay, mumbling to myself, on we go. Here we are. Cormorant Cove and environs, I should have called this. Okay, now my, well, let's see. Stand by, I'm just having, for some reason, it's not advancing. All right, I'm gonna go out of share screen and come back and hope that works. There we go. Okay, so here we are. This is the loop. We're going to be starting right here, which is at the entry to the Coast Guard station. We're going to go down the path.
Hey, Kim, I'm not seeing it yet. I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
I don't know.
Okay.
I just see you.
Let me.
Are you sharing your screen?
I was, but let me try again.
Okay.
Let me. As I said, we're kind of rusty around here.
We are rusty. Anything I can do on my end? I don't know.
I think there we go. There we go. I'm just starting over.
Okay. Okay, we're starting. Okay, I'm starting to see your PowerPoint. Yes. Okay.
Okay, we're trying again.
All right.
Okay, let's see if this is going to advance. That seemed to be the problem. Oh, there we go. Can you see that?
Yes, Kim. Okay, you're all set.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, so we're going to start here at the Coast Guard station and go down the path. Then we're going to go this way towards and around this edge of the Cormorant Cove. And then we're going to go down the road, which is Coast Guard Road or Champlain Road, and then go on to Charlestown Beach at this point, and then up Charlestown Beach, all the way up here to the breakwater, and then back to where we started. And we'll just look at things as we go. One of the things I'll be talking a lot about is the areas like right here, which has become like a little coastal sand plain. This area is all accreted or accumulated sand from the breakwater being there and trapping the sand from moving northward along the island. And even down here, all of this is this beautiful sort of sandy coastal sand plain habitat right back from the shoreline or the water's edge. Now, take a special look right now. The shoreline goes right up to here, almost the tip of the breakwater. In around 1900 and 1914, this surveyor's map was drawn, and this is the breakwater in exactly the same place it is now. It stops here and it joins, that's where it joins the land, which when you're walking on it, you can see that point very clearly. And this is the shoreline. So the beach shoreline went to about halfway down the breakwater, which now it's about here. So this is all accrued land since this was built in 1895. So it's really quite amazing. So back to where we're going to start. We're going to start at the Coast Guard station entry point, which is over here. This is the boathouse, what they call the boathouse. This is the motor pool. This is the boathouse. And this is the limited parking area. It looks like there's a lot more parking than there actually is. But at this time of year, there's no shortage of parking. But you can park there. And this is a town road and town facility. And the path is going to take us right down here along the side of the motor building. And if you look over here on the right, you'll see you have choice to go this way, which is not very easy to go that way because big chain and multiple signs that say don't enter. And then this little path that runs right along the edge of the Coast Guard property is our path to the shoreline. And there's plenty of signage to warn you. It says no trespassing and authorized personnel. And then a little sign says that way to the beach. And you can definitely see that which way the beach is. And I should have mentioned that I am known for throwing in orbs in a lot of the photos, so you can keep an eye out for them. There are a lot in this presentation, I think because I was feeling in the holiday spirit. And then again, as you go down this path, this is about midway down, and then I guess this is about midway down. But here we're already seeing what's going to be the theme of the walk, where on over here is this really interesting thin sandy soil. It's got warm season grasses, panic grass, switchgrass, and lots of other kind of interesting things that you don't necessarily expect, but also a lot of evergreens. The black pines out here are thriving. And also a good mix of cedar as well. And then as you come to the end of the path, almost to the beach, there is a sign kiosk that's maintained by the Committee for the Great Salt Pond. And once you pass the kiosk, you are, after you pass the kiosk, you get a sense, we're looking back at this coastal plain area, which we're going to look at a lot more later, but right in the foreground, it's this great big tangle of Rosa rugosa or beach rose, which, when you're here in the summer, we're used to seeing this as a beautiful green, lush plant with tons and tons of pink, white, and sort of almost magenta beach rose flowers. But right now it's just a tangle of dried up stalks and stems. And in case you were wondering how I know it's beach rose, nothing has a thorny stem system like the beach rose. And those, I'm sure if any of you have tried to walk through one of these in the dunes, you know that those thorns are plentiful and pointy. Now we get down to the beach, and when you get them down on the beach right here, we're looking across the channel to Bean Point, or what is also known to me as Hippocampus. And the dock area is right to the right of this view here. Now you can't go over the dock. It's well maintained with chain link fence, but at low tide you can go under the dock. And so I went under the dock and came out here and got this fantastic view of the station house. So the Coast Guard facility has basically 4 buildings: the station house, the boathouse, the motor pool, and the chief's house. And there are a couple other little outbuildings, but those are the 4 main. They all have red roofs, so you'll know you're looking at a government facility, which at this point is no longer, this property is now owned by the town of New Shoreham. It was given over by the Coast Guard, by the Federal Coast Guard, although the Coast Guard maintains access and there's a memorandum of understanding for its use of the Chief's House and the dock area with the U.S. Coast Guard. So under the dock we go, and we're headed towards Cormorant Cove. And it's a real mix, Cormorant Cove, of rocky sort of shoreline and muddy mudflats. And it seems like on more on the northern and the southern edge of in other words, I would say the sides or the flanks of Cormorant Cove have this sort of real rocky area. But it's great for capturing seaweed and all kinds of little shrimp and little worms and stuff, and it becomes a great feeding area for shorebirds of all types. In the photo on the left, there's actually 3, not pretty close, of these black-bellied plovers feeding in the weed and mostly probably getting trapped grass shrimp and other insects and worms. So, but that is a black-bellied plover and its winter plumage. So I guess it's winter. So as we go along, you can see it stays pretty rocky on this part, but we're headed towards, the docks that you're used to seeing at Cormorant Cove are way down here. And this is an edge you probably haven't explored too much unless you've gone for the purpose of taking a walk. And it's really a beautiful place to take a walk. At this little point out here, you're starting to see like some Spartina grass just trying to poke up and make a stand. And where that has poked up and is anchored in, the sand is built up around it, and it is starting to build a little bit of a sand substrate as opposed to the rocky shore. So beach grass and Spartina grasses are all super important for capturing sand and starting to build up a land mass. So on we go. And what this is known as a wrack line. So it's the upper line where the waves, high tides will push debris, and in this case, an awful lot of shells, but you can often, and seaweed, and it marks the high extent of a high tide. And so there are several places along Cormorant Cove where you can see a pretty defined wrack line. And when it's built up like this, you know that that's pretty much the extent of it. Sometimes the wrack lines can be a little bit here, and then a few high tides later they can move inland a little bit. But this is about, because of the shape of the land here and that it comes up against this grass and some elevation, the wrack line is very defined and then captures a lot of material. And you never know what you're going to find in there. It's just, this particular wrack line is filled with shell. Lots of shells that you would find around here. This wonderful Nautilus design is a moon snail, a lot of slipper snail shells in here. Here's a little bit of barnacle. There's some clam pieces, so all kinds of, you never know what you're gonna find. But of course I was completely taken by it. I didn't arrange this. This is how the shells were piled up. And as you've often heard me say over time, that sometimes it's just the raw beauty and sort of the organic patterns that come that I just love observing, and don't have any real natural history to tell you about them other than, isn't that beautiful? Lots of different shell type. When I was on the beach near the channel, I found a couple of scallop shells, and this one still had meat in it, and there were some eider feeding that flew off. I didn't realize that they were eating, but I'm pretty sure these were their scallop dinner. So I just left it there, took the picture and left the scallop for them to come back. But you can find all kinds of shells: scallop shell, oyster shell. This is a part of a moon snail shell covered with barnacles. And barnacles are a really interesting living creature. And in this part right here, you can see this actually opens up. It's like a little eyelid, and it opens up, and the tentacles come out of the barnacle and wave in the water and trap any little micronutrients or phytoplankton that might be going by, and then it'll retract those tentacles into its body. You know, a barnacle is an animal. Imagine that. This is an animal, and it'll take those tentacles in with the food on it, and these can clasp tight. It's like an operculum you might see in a snail, so that when tide goes out and the water is gone, it has sealed itself off and won't dry out until the next high tide comes by. So again, quite amazing adaptations. Of course, plenty of horseshoe crab shell molts. This is actually a molt. It's a pretty big molt. In other words, it was the shell that was left behind after it molted a new shell and continued its life. This was not a dead horseshoe crab, and I can tell that by by looking at the underside and seeing that it was opened like a purse and the animal crawled out of it, as opposed to being, you know, eaten or taken apart by somebody else. Oops, a little too extreme there. There we go. So lots of shell types. Oops, wrong way. And some more shell types that you'd see on near the channel. I found this big sea clam or skimmer, and those are very large. You only find them on the outside of the island shoreline. Rarely are they living on the inside of the Great Salt Pond, but their big, very hardy shell are perfect for digging clams, because you can use it as a little extension of your hand. This is a soft shell clam, which is also growing in the area of Cormorant Cove. Unfortunately, they're not very numerous, and so the season does not allow for the taking of soft shell clam. But nobody told the gulls that, so you find plenty of soft shell clam shells around. Of course, this is a quahog shell, and this is also a quahog shell. Now, what's interesting about this one is these little markings, this little tan, reddish tan sort of zigzag pattern that's throughout the shell. You see some here, you see some here. That's called notatum. And that is a genetic marker that was bred into this clam. And so you can tell that whenever you find one of these, it's a regular quahog, same genus, species. It's just as a genetic marker put into it. And you can tell that that was one of the clams that was seeded when it was little, you know, it would have been smaller than your pinky fingernail. Very tiny, but you see those not as much as you used to, a lot more of the native stock. Plus, I don't think the seed clams come with the notatum anymore, but you still do find them, and it's always interesting to see that. To me, it always looks like a southwestern design on our northeastern quahog. So, had to have a sip of coffee there. So once we get around the corner of Cormorant Cove, you start looking back, you see the Coast Guard station here, the station house, and this is the motor pool. You can see this great broad expanse. Of course, this is very low tide, so there's a lot of exposed shoreline here. But just go up off screen from the left, and you'll see this view on the right, and you have the station house again for your comparison. And you see this area. This is all amazing coastal sand plain habitat. Lots of Spartina, lots of lots of switchgrass, Rosa rugosa, bayberry, all pretty much native species. I have to say, now I'm just thinking this now, I did not see any invasives on this walk. No barberry, no bittersweet. So this is good for nothing else. There were no invasives that I readily saw on this walk around the peninsula. Excuse me. So again, looking back, the mudflats, very important area for the ecosystem themselves. Lots of clams, razor clams, quahogs, soft shell clams, lots of crabs and other cool organisms. And I don't want to give away too much, but there's also a lot of blue mussels in this particular little tiny part of this area. And blue mussels attached to rocks, and they're pretty good, delicious eating. When I was a kid, we always used to go down to Cormorant Cove for mussling, to get mussels, and they were attached to big rocks. And there are not so many big rocks, but like there's one over here, and and the mussels would attach to them, but they died out. And I think one of the problems with blue mussels is the shifting sands. You can have a good crop of them, but if the ecology is such that the sands shift and bury them over, suffocate them, then they'll die out. And because it's such a dynamic area in Cormorant Cove, you can have years of good mussel growth, and then it can all be lost in one big sort of stormy movement of sand. Of course, along the way, you see many gulls, all kinds of gulls. This was a nice little raft. And it's funny that this raft was sitting there, and the whole time I was there, it didn't move. Now, they're not standing there. They're actually swimming, but they didn't move. So somehow their feet must be, they're like treading water. That's what they're doing. They're treading water. And at first glance, you might automatically assume that they're the normal herring gulls, but a little closer look, and you see that most of these are ring-billed gulls. And one of the ways you can tell is by looking at the bill, and you see the black on just back from the tip of the bill, and it's on both the upper and lower part of the bill, the upper and lower mandible. Those are ring-billed gulls. They're slightly smaller than a herring gull. And here we have a herring gull standing on the beach. But you notice the herring gull has that traditional red spot on its lower mandible, but nothing on the top. Now that's not the only way you can tell a ring-billed from a herring gull, but it is helpful when they're in a group that's just them. Herring gulls are much bigger than ring-billed gulls, but if they're not standing next to each other, sometimes that's hard to see. So on this day, we had at least 2 gulls species, and probably, I'm not sure I've said it yet in this series, but there is no such thing as a seagull. They're all, if you don't know what kind of gull it is, it's simply a gull. And then if you can go further, it can be a ring-billed gull or a herring gull or a blackback gull or Iceland gull or glaucous gull. And there are probably 100 different gull species around the world, probably more. And we have Cormorant Point, which is sort of this little point at the, I guess it's the southeastern corner of Cormorant Cove itself. And it's marked by this, at the very end, it's this large triangular sort of pyramid-like rock. You can see how high the tide is. There's the upper tide mark. But it's a great place a favorite place for seals to haul out. And their seals were are pretty numerous on Block Island in the winter, and they're doing well here at Cormorant Cove. This is, as I say, a pretty regular place, and if you want to see a little closer, you just kind of move in. And they are at rest. They haul out at least once, if not twice a day at high tide to rest and warm up. And you do especially see them on days that are not too windy and sunny at low tide. And they have some, this particular seal is in what's called the banana pose. So who says that biologists don't have a sense of humor? Whoever's banana pose, it's pretty good. And then to see it really up close, a little bit fuzzy when you start zooming in like that, but there it is, some of those seals. There were only about 7 of them out there that day. but it's fun to look at them. Look at this one. This is really a big seal. There's feet coming out. I couldn't see its snout. This very well may be a gray seal based on its size, not on its color. The harbor seals, which these definitely are the young are whiter. So you can't say that just because it's not gray. I mean, you can't say that just because the other one is gray, it's not a harbor. It could be, but its size would indicate to me that it might be a gray seal. So seals are fun. Now, as we were just on the shoreline over here, looking out at the seals, which would have been out this way. Now we're going to go back up on the road. This is Coast Guard Road, and as I said, it was low tide. It has this sort of barrier, and here it is the next day at high tide. And you can see that water comes right up to those rocks, and one low area down here. I am sure extreme high tides or extreme high tides combined with wave action is into this road. This road with sea level rise is not going to be doing well. You will have to make sure that any vehicle you take under there, you clean off the salt water quickly, because this is going to be a very vulnerable area as our climate changes and our sea level rises. If you go down the road a little bit, I just took a few photos on the road of things that you would see that are marked by this back, sort of the coastal sand plain. Lots of these black pines, and they're doing well. They're big, they're multiple, they're producing a lot of cones. Some of them are tiny, just getting started. And then this one, the photo here, just shows, if we walk down the road a little bit and look back at the Coast Guard station, you see a good sample of what I mean by coastal sand plain. A lot of sand, hardly any organic soil, but a lot of shrubs holding it in place, a lot of switchgrass. And this is a mix of black pines and cedars. So it's doing quite well. As I mentioned, almost always I'm talking about switchgrass and panic grass, the same thing. And that's what these are. They're gone to seed, they're well past seeding, and now they're just adding to the texture and the color of the landscape, holding soil in place, and they're just generally being beautiful. And the other thing I noticed on the road was a good set of deer track. There were definitely deer down here. They seem to like the mud flats as well as anybody else. In this case, these tracks are in the road, but there were quite a few tracks on the mud flats themselves. And I'd love to catch one eating something someday, just to know what it is that they're doing down there. Certainly, they're not drinking the salt water. And it seems like almost every walk I've done, I come across somewhere a feather just landed somewhere. Here, this feather is among the beach grass roots along the side of the Coast Guard Road. And I just throw these in because they're so beautiful. And the pattern is so beautiful. So now we've walked away from Cormorant Cove up Coast Guard Road, which is also known as Champlain Road. And at the big, if you've been on this road, you know there's a big, sharp 90-degree angle corner that's also often very sandy. You have to maintain momentum so that you don't get stuck in the sand there. And this is the entry point off of Coast Guard Road into Charlestown Beach, which is the beach on the outside of the island. So we've gone from the inside of the Great Salt Pond into Cormorant Cove to the outside. We're going to the outside of Charlestown Beach. Now, a couple of things about terms here. The Coast Guard Road, I grew up knowing it as Coast Guard Road. Its legal name is Champlain Road, but it had been known as Coast Guard Road for a long, long, long time. And so those of us who grew up knowing it, have had a hard time converting our language to Champlain Road. So when I remember, I try to use Champlain Road, but it's Coast Guard Road, or it's Champlain Road that goes to the Coast Guard station. So, and in the case, it is a town-maintained road, and then this pathway right here goes out onto Charleston Beach. And everybody I've ever asked my whole life, why is it Charleston Beach, is because I've been told that it's because it looks at Charleston, Rhode Island, which in fact it does, which never quite made total sense to me, but everybody knows that it is Charleston Beach. So as we go out to then, we see this amazing, beach driftwood. This one is very long. If you look to the south, you're looking down the Charleston Beach until it comes Gracie's Cove. And then from there it goes Gracie's Cove Beach and Dory's Cove and Coonimus Cove. So Charleston Beach is basically from this point all the way to the breakwater to the north. So here we're looking at the south, here looking straight out at the ocean. And I love that the rotten kids who party on our beaches, quote unquote, took the time to carve into this giant piece of driftwood, "Don't litter." And there were many initials, some more demarked than others, but I just love that they took this opportunity to turn this piece of driftwood into a very good sign that says "Don't litter." I love that. And then if we look north, we're looking down towards the channel entrance and the breakwater. And you can see that's a pretty expansive beach. It's quite wide. And here it gives a little bit more emphasis that we're down the beach a little bit, and it's quite the curve. Just all of this sand has been accreted, the term is accreted, and has accumulated since 1895 when so 100 years, 125 years. Since the breakwater was put in and built up. It's the only place on Block Island where the island is increasing in size. And not only is the beach increasing, oops, I'll get back to that next again. This is a blank slate, so I can warn you that there might be something gruesome coming up, but you can find all kinds of wonderful things on Charleston Beach, one of which is a dead deer. This has been slowly decaying here for quite a while, as you can tell. But what's interesting, well, or at least to me, is the patterning on the sand around this dead deer. These are all gull footprints. And I was alerted to this by the fact that there are about 6 to 8 gulls still working and feeding on this dead deer. So, but you can also find things like skate egg cases, and this is quite a large one. Usually you see the little tiny ones, or not tiny, but smaller ones that people refer to as mermaid purses. It's a skate egg case, a skate being a fish. The skate will extrude a whole, the female will extrude a whole line of these egg cases, and in each one of those is an egg. And last year I was lucky enough to find one of these that still had the yolk inside of it. You could hold it. It's not hard and black like this. It's more rubbery and sort of a amber colored. Because it hasn't dried out, it's a live egg case. And you could hold it up to the water and see the yolk inside. And these tentacles, these long spikes, the female will extrude this long line of these, and when they break apart, these spines, these spikes, will attach to something near the bottom of the ocean on the substrate and hold it in place while the egg develops, and then eventually it will crack open. Like many sea creatures, it'll crack right here at the margin, and like a purse, it opens up and the little tiny skate will escape. My battery is running low. This is not good. Wonder what's going on. Well, it's plugged in, so we'll hope for the best. You know, I might have to take a break to do something about this. I'm so sorry. I'll finish this section. Of course, you can find lots of rocks, and you can find rocks that I left behind that were so beautiful, and you can find rocks that I took home because they were so beautiful. And I'm going to have to take a break and get this plugged in. So, Charlotte, do you mind?
Yeah, I'm here. What would you like, Kim? Oh, did we lose Kim? Okay, sorry everyone, as we have some technical difficulties
Charlotte, she
today.
said she was going to go. Yeah, she said she was going to go find a way to be plugged back in.
I know. As you can see,
Poor thing.
I know. And in the summertime, we got into such a rhythm of these, and now doing once a month. It's definitely having a few issues. Poor Kim. Anyway, we got someone else wanting to come in as well. So hopefully, did we lose Kim completely? Looks like we did.
Charlotte, any opportunity to do maybe 2 a month in the winter? Because these are wonderful.
I know, they're great. I know Kim is going to do more. Initially, she just organized for the fall, and she is planning on doing more in the winter. So we could make a recommendation for that. That would be great, or a little bit more
especially
frequent.
with the lockdown.
I know. Exactly.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I love it. I always really look forward to these, and just I just love her photography and like the raw beauty, you know, things that I would just typically just kind of walk by as kind of scrubby or whatever. When she focuses in on it, it's just amazing. So
looking through Kim Gaffett's lens.
I know. Exactly. So I think somebody just joined. We were just having some technical difficulties, and hopefully Kim will be able to get back on. Maybe I'll text her in the meantime, but I don't want her to panic. I should actually start.
Yeah, I just texted her to say that I could run over and help her if she needs it.
Oh, Deandra. Wear your mask.
I'm just waiting for the green light, but yeah, I'm here to help if I can.
Yeah, that's right. You're in the neighborhood.
Yeah, literally a hop, skip, and a jump.
Poor Kim. And also, I usually do a reminder for myself to send out a BI bulletin on Sunday. But yesterday morning, it was nice, and I got going with the dump and all this that I completely forgot to send it out.
It happens. It wasn't yesterday.
Yeah. Do you wanna hop over and just see if do you have an extra? I'm assuming she's on her
I'll bring
have
over,
the same power cord. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring over.
Okay.
Then I'll figure it out. All right.
Okay. I think I'll have to do some editing on the recording of this one.
So tell us, how can we get a recording of it, or
yeah, sure. So we actually record all these, and we have a website that we created about 1.5 years ago that hosts all the walk information. So first it was more the in-person walks, and now it's the social distance bird walks and Kim Zooms and some other some trail guides as well. And I'll put it in the chat. It's The website is natureblockisland.org. So let me just type that in. And if you go to if you go to the Zoom on Nature one, it'll have the link for the next one coming up. But if you scroll down, it'll show all the recordings. And some of them are a little bit rough. You know, we just, Kim and I were, Kim's presentation's great, but I'm saying the recordings can be a little, rough sometimes.
And so it's a website. It's not one of your fancy, strange.
No. So what we've done is, so I record these, and actually for the Rhode Island chapter, there is we have a YouTube channel. So what I do is then we upload them up to there, and then we link them to that website. So you can actually go two ways. You could go to natureblockisland.org, or you can also go to the YouTube directly, and it's put on top.
I was afraid you were going to tell me I had to go on Twitter or those things.
Oh, I don't know.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, is Kim back? I'm seeing some.
I'm back.
Whoa! All right.
So sorry.
Don't worry, Kim. I tried to fill in for you.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
Intermission.
Woo. I'm glad you're back. Okay. Well, listen, I'm gonna mute all, then I'll unmute you again, Kim. Okay.
Got it.
All righty. Okay, Kim.
Okay.
Let's
Other
roll.
great. Am I here?
You're here.
Okay. Other great things that you can find on the beach besides dead deer and wonderful stones is driftwood sculptures. And again, some people are offended by these or they don't like them, but I just love the creativity. And since I've associated this particular driftwood sculpture set with whoever said don't litter, I'm a fan. So this one is, I think, in half done. I don't think this will be finished this year, but they're quite creative and structurally really cool. And right behind this one is this one, which I just loved. Now, I can see a dinosaur in there. So I think we have some real artists that are working on these sculptures that you occasionally see around the Islands beaches. So, and a treasure for sure on Charleston Beach. Now, as we go along, earlier I talked about how wide the beach is getting, has been getting. Well, so has the upper dune, or what this is really just a long dune. It's probably the widest dune that you can find on Block Island. And all of this grassy dune land that you're seeing, this is all accreted land that has formed because the breakwater catches sand that is moving northward along that island's coastline. And as it moves forward, it runs into the breakwater and then piles up behind it. And that's how this land has built up over the last 125 years. Now, the bad part is that this sand didn't keep going northward. And so where it has been building up south of the breakwater, north of the breakwater, like in the area of the West Beach, and especially near the transfer station, that whole beach is being deprived of the sand that would have been going and naturally being deposited along the whole western coastline of Block Island. It's getting interrupted in the middle by this breakwater. So although it's making a really beautiful ecosystem down here, in this very wide dune system and very wide beach, it's not so good for the northern part of the island. But on we go, nevertheless. And finally, we get to the end of the breakwater. And another pile of wood. This one is, if it was a structure, it's in a state of decay. But again, you can see how close. I mean, there's only this much breakwater left to catch sand. And so all this sand that also is going to blow keeps blowing into the channel, and the channel thus needs to be dredged on a pretty regular basis. So there we are, we're looking at the end of the breakwater, and I'm going to go through a series of photos here that will give you a 180-degree view from this one spot. So looking towards the mainland, and now we're looking towards North Light. Here's the breakwater right in the foreground. Now we're looking a little bit more towards the West Beach and the transfer station. Again, the breakwater will become a prominent figure going forward. And now we're looking at the end of Bean Point or Hippocampus. And one more turn, and we're looking into the channel, into the Great Salt Pond, or the New Harbor, which is, you know, how many of us know it as the New Harbor. Has grown, I don't think we'll see it. I don't think I put this slide in here, but once you get, this dune is built up pretty well, but then on this, between the breakwater and this dune, it's this wonderful, just hard sand walking path on the shore side of the breakwater. It's a wonderful walk. It wouldn't be a wonderful walk at high tide because the water will seep through, come through, sift through the breakwater, and there is salt water in this area at high tide, especially high tides. A little bit later on this breakwater, I just stood and took a picture looking northward towards the tip down here. And again, you can see that path that's quite traversable. And this is about where the breakwater ends. No, it's a little farther, sorry. But it's very easy to cross over from the shore side, the land side to the shore side. And then, of course, this is the view along the breakwater going back towards the harbor, and you're starting to see some of the buildings. I will say that the day I took this particular part of the walk, it was a southwest wind, and it wasn't too cold, and it was just a beautiful, lovely, quiet, peaceful, meditative walk, looking at things as I came along, whether it was a dead deer or stones or sculpture or skate egg cases. And it's a great walk for winter time because, of course, you don't have to worry about deer hunting, and because you can get protected from a southwesterly wind or a westerly wind for most of this walk. And we finally get to the channel, and it's a very narrow channel, but it's dredged to about 25, 26 feet, and that's the maintenance depth. So any vessel that draws more than 25 feet cannot come into the Great Salt Pond. And even at, 18 feet, it would have to work with the tide. Could only do it at high tide. What was interesting is I started off on dead low tide when I started my walk. And at this point, the tide has shifted and has now ebbed. It is now going out. No, it's coming in. And you can see on the surface of the water, the effect of the sort of the churning water of the two tides tide changing. And this is whenever you see water that's got these kind of little eddies and roiled up here and not here, and you can tell that there's a changing in the current. And again, look, very clear water, beautiful clear water, but the depth, it's not a long shallow beach. It drops off very quickly. So if you're swimming in this area, which you should not be doing, you're quickly over your head in many ways. Of course, on this, lots of eider in this area. So it's funny, we were talking earlier about eider having come in. The eider are strong at this time of year. On the left, we have males. They have that beautiful black and white pattern. Their bill goes way up to their forehead, almost right between its eyes. So it's a very distinctive feature of eiders in general. This is common eider. And this is a female over here on the on the right. Beautiful, warm chocolate brown color, nothing like the plumage colors of the male. And as we go, we're starting to, we've come almost to the beginning point. This is looking across the coastal sand plain. The water is right behind me when I'm taking this photo. And this is what's known as the Chief's house. This is a Coast Guard facility. There's a generator or something in this building, but this has always been known as the Chief's house. And that is the house that's reserved for use by the Coast Guard when they need it. All the other buildings are open to the town, or owned by the town and available for the town's use. And then this is again looking across this very interesting sand plain at the boathouse and again the Coast Guard station house. Wasn't much. I always looked for a blooming flower. I did not find a single blooming flower on this walk, but I did find this beautiful seaside goldenrod gone to seed. And the reason there's two pictures here, because it's actually the same plant, is that it just looks so beautiful against both the sand color and against the sky color. And when you look close, again, the texture, the form, the colors, subtle though they are, is just beautiful. And these are little tiny seeds ready to be dispersed to start another seaside goldenrod plant somewhere, sometime. Now we've gotten almost we are actually back to the beginning pathway in this view. I'm looking back at this wonderful plain, sand plain, and then sort of stays flat, and then there's a slight curve down toward the beach. But lots of interesting stuff here, and little trees and big trees. I could not get enough of this particular area. I think I need to spend some more time in there throughout the year to see what is actually living and growing. But much to my surprise, there was many places where there was moss being covered over by the sand and being exposed. And this is healthy looking moss. So there must be, I'm at a puzzle as to, because we've had such a rainy month that it is moistened and greened up, taking advantage of the sudden availability of water. I really don't know. And this is a fungus. It's a type of fungus called a bolete. It's there are gill mushrooms, and there are pore mushrooms. Think puffballs. And a bolete is not gilled, and it is pores, but they're different form of pores. I've very rarely seen bolete mushrooms on Block Island. Here it is. Here's another one. There were a couple of these just growing in the sand. This is how it was. And it's growing on its side, which is interesting. This is the underside, and this is the top side. So it's growing sideways. So I did pull this one up. This is well past, but something nibbled it. I don't know what, but something nibbled it. And here it is, the top side, and this is the bottom side view. Good grief, now the phone is ringing. This has been a morning, I'll tell you. So very interesting. I can't wait to go back and see if I ever see a bolete mushroom in this area again. Very unusual. But again, mostly what are there that it was visible on these days was these pioneer black pines. They're all sizes, all shapes, some tall, some low to the ground, some full of cones, pine cones, some not. It's just incredibly interesting area. A few other things growing in there, little tiny seedling, black pine, they're doing well. And this is the leftover sort of leaf stalk of a mullein plant that grew this year. The stalk and the flower are long since gone, but these fuzzy petals, just so comforting looking. This one's a little worn, But once it freezes, this too will die back. But for now, it's sitting there offering, saying, yes, I grow here and I can grow here. So we're back to Cormorant Cove, pretty much where we started. And the next two photos are a reminder that the new harbor and its shoreline is also a working waterfront. And here's a working waterfront person. And I could not resist. It was not that warm this particular day that Chris Littlefield was dragging his kayak back full of scallops. But he is out there often, and this is indeed a rare sighting, a rare organism, someone who is still goes out to forage for his own consumption. And sort of a beauty shot, but the tugboat, there's a lot of activity going on around the island and in its waters these days, and there are at least 3 or 4 tugboats between the old and new harbor, and this one was just coming in. So lots of industry to be had among the natural walk of this walk. Let's see what's next. Oh yeah, so late autumn sightings, things that I've seen around the island in the last few weeks. This is a face only a mother could love. It is a praying mantid. The true name is mantid, but most of us know it as mantis, praying mantis. Very triangular face with a big giant compound eyes. And here it is stretched out. This is definitely female. Her abdomen full, ready to lay that sort of distinctive small barrel-shaped ootheca where she will deposit her eggs. So praying mantis is an amazing creature. The last bird I got at the banding station this year was an American tree sparrow, and I forgot to look, but I can't remember ever seeing one in my nets before. This is a young one, so it's not not perfectly in its tree sparrow plumage. It should have a much stronger black dot right here, but everything about it. And a bird that I've always wanted to see on Block Island, and this is the first time, is on the right is the Harlequin duck. They're known in Narragansett Bay up near Jamestown. They like rough water. This was taken right below the spring house in the rocky waters there. This is an immature male. It doesn't have its full plumage. It somehow got blown out to Block Island. It was solitary. It was the only one there. Usually they're in a little flock. I have 2 screens of shots because I just think the forms and the shapes and the colors and the textures of so much on Block Island is beautiful. I think we've probably all seen the desktop photos that you can get on your computer. You can put your own on there. And as my offering to each of you is, if you want one of these to put on your desktop, on your computer desktop, I will happily send you the photo and you can do that. It'll be a way of having a little bit of Block Island, especially if you're not here. And I don't know if it matters, but you can know that these are Block Island stones. Or if you prefer, Block Island water. I think they all would make a fine desktop pattern. So let me know if you want one, I'll send you a photo. And with that, we have our regular bird checklist of birds that I saw on this particular day. It's funny that we started with a casual conversation about eiders, and that's pretty much how I finish. So with that, happy holidays, and that is the end of this presentation with all of its glitches.
It was fabulous, Kim. I love it. I love that you collect the rocks. I love it. I thought I was the only one in the world, and I have my whole deck has Block Island rocks that I dragged up the cliff from Painted Rock. We go down to that nude beach, secluded nude beach, and I have to take a rock home with me every time. They're so gorgeous. So I'm glad I have a kindred spirit with you.
You definitely do, and I will say that as I was filling up my pockets with rocks. I go, I must have enough at home by now, but I couldn't resist those 4. They were so interesting, and just add them to my little pile of good rocks that I left them, that I picked up. But as I indicated, I had to leave some behind. My pockets were filling up a little too much.
Well, thank you. This has been a wonderful treat. Thank you so much.
Kim, can I ask a question? Or
Sure, of course.
this is John Formica, and thank you for doing this. It's always a treat, and I really enjoy it. The one thing that I've always been baffled by is the coarseness of the sand at Coast Guard Beach as opposed to Crescent Beach. Could you just comment on that?
Yeah, it'll have to do with how much time it's had to wear down, and that in the relative, even though we get a lot of northeast storms that move the sand out a lot, on the west side is really the prevailing wind, and it really is so dynamic that it just doesn't have the rest time for the finer particles to settle out and come to and be distributed on the top. So right now, if you've ever observed the East Beach, it's very dynamic also, and it can go from rocky cobbles for long stretches to completely covered with fine sand. And that fine sand gets moved offshore a little bit by rough water, but then by calm water, it comes back in. And if you were on the East Beach watching very carefully when it goes from rocky cobbles to the fine sand, you would see the coarse sand comes in first, and then the finer sand comes in with a more gentler, less energy-filled wave activity. So we just don't have that on the West Beach. And anytime you see where the wave activity is less, that's when you see the finer grain sand until it's almost mud, like in Cormorant Cove. The flanks, as I mentioned, are rockier. That's because there's more wave action energy to take the fine sand out. The fine sand settles when there's less energy in the water motion.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Kim, I've shared your email for anyone who wanted to grab a photo.
Okay, great. It's the season of giving, right?
I'm sorry, Paula, you were about to say something?
Yes, I was wondering if the black-bellied plovers are there for the winter or just going through?
Black-bellied plovers can be seen, not in great numbers, but all winter. It's the only, well, sanderling and black-bellied plovers are the 2 shorebirds that we're pretty reliably likely to see. Every once in a while, we'll see a dunlin or possibly a late season yellowlegs, but black-bellied plovers and sanderlings are our winter shorebirds.
Interesting.
Yeah, not lots of them. Most of them have gone, but they do well enough on Black Island, between Cormorant Cove and Andy's Way. So. Anybody else?
Yeah, the mussels. I wanted to ask, I can remember mussling in Cormorant Cove many, many, many years ago also, and then also trying to get some on the coast. On the coast, and I just haven't been out there doing it, but are mussels still around?
Well, they're not. These are the first time the mussels have been sort of building up in Cormorant Cove in small groups. They're if you saw that photo, you'll notice they were very tightly packed and in a lot of mud. There's so much mud moving around that they can easily be covered over and smothered. That area, I mean, it's a free fishery, so the people who own the dock shouldn't be upset, but that area is around the dock. So I think the mussels that are attaching to the dock are spawning and then settling on whatever small rocks right in the area. As you go away from the 2 dock areas, they sort of get fewer and fewer. I see the same thing at Clay Head, that sometimes you can find a good bunch of mussels and you can have a few meals out of them, and then you go back the next time and the sand has come in and covered them all over, and you got to wait another couple of years for them to make it back. So the best musseling is to make friends with Ken Lacoste, and when he pulls his docks out of the water for the season, go right down there when he's setting them on and pick them right off of the dock while you're standing in your bare feet. But you have to get them to let you know. And I had a little trouble hearing that question, Polly, because there's some kind of echo. So if I didn't answer it correctly, I probably just didn't hear it correctly.
You did. You were great.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Kim. Now, while we were having technical difficulties, we were talking about the future of Zoom on Nature. Are we, and I believe you told me you're hoping to do some coming up in the winter?
Yeah. And then by the end of the week, I'll have the next 4 months scheduled. I imagine we're going to be, not that I don't love these, I just would love to be outside with all of you. But I imagine it's going to be at least April. And I think even that is probably wishful thinking. So I will have the dates up for you, Charlotte, by the end of the week. But I think the January one is the 25th, if that's a Monday. I don't really have a 21 calendar with me, but I want to do it the Monday after the holiday.
Sure.
I don't want to mess up anybody's holiday.
For all our travel plans. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the 25th. Yeah.
25th is Monday.
Yeah, so that'll be the next one.
Okay.
And it'll be that pattern. Probably the same thing for the February will be the Monday after the President's holiday. So.
Okay.
Hey Dee, are you online? And if so, can you? I was feeling a little unclear about the notatum. From what you know about the markers on the quahogs, if you heard that part, did I get it right? It's a genetic marker from some of the seeded clams.
Yeah, so my basic understanding is the quahogs that have that zebra, well, what Chris and I call the zebra stripes, it almost looks like a frequency chart. Those are the ones that were seeded from Milford Lab in Connecticut back in 2006, I believe the year was. So, about 12, 13 years ago, I think, somewhere around there. But that's what I know, and I could be wrong, but that's maybe I guess asking Chris too would be a good option.
Thank you. I think that lines up with exactly what I was thinking, except you had some better details, like 2006 and the lab. That was great.
Yeah. And the scientist, I know the scientist, our connection there was Virginia Lee, and she's a notable and well-renowned shellfish scientist in our region. So definitely something you can Google and search.
Right. All right. Now, is notatum the right term? Because I call it the Southwestern design, and you call it the zebra design. It must have something.
No, I think you're more accurate than I am. I'm using verbiage of Chris, so we can collaborate on that.
Okay. I just thought since you were here, I'd give it that. I did ask Chris, but I guess he was out scalloping. He hasn't gotten back yet.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
Well, thanks, Kim. This has been great. I loved all the raw beauty of the photos. It was just great. And I think I saw, I want to say 5 or 6 orbs, but
I gave up counting, but there's at least that many because I thought, I think I'll just throw them in everywhere.
Great.
That was great. That was wonderful, Kim.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for doing this.
No, it's fun.
Kim, I sent you a couple of pictures. I did a similar walk on the 31st of October. So there's I just sent them to you. There's the one of that fuzzy plant, and it had frost on it that morning. And then I also I also sent you a picture of the building along the breakwater, that sculpture, the driftwood sculpture, and it definitely has decayed since then because there was a lot more to it.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I love that. Yeah, the fuzzy plant is common mullein, Mullien.
Okay.
But fuzzy plant works. It's like spelling, as long as you get the gist of it. As long as you're communicating.
That's
sometimes this. So great to see so many friends on. I really appreciate that. Hey,
Well,
Ellen.
thank you. It was wonderful, as usual.
All right. And if anybody's into birding, tomorrow is our social distance bird walk. So we'll love to
Wherever
hear
you
what
are,
you're-
you can participate. Yeah.
That's right. Wherever you are, let me know what you see tomorrow, and I'll put together a report, which are also the reports are showing up on our website as well. I think they're more or less up to date.
I think there's one. I didn't just do the last one. I think you just sent that out, didn't you,
Just
Kim?
done it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but no, I do like looking through them, even though myself, I need my bird watching skills are.
That's all right. You know, like same thing. If you're enjoying the view of the bird and what it's doing, it really doesn't matter if you know its name.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Great.
Kim. Good to see you. Merry
Good to
Christmas,
see you.
everybody. Happy holidays.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your holiday. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Oh, well, thank you, Kim.